All right, so I'm giving this thing a go, but just by itself without the. So when I bought this camera, I also bought a microphone so that I can pick up things a little bit better. They're a little, the voice quality's a little bit better. Some of the some of the not comments but actual people talking to me said that the sound on my videos kind of sucked, and I get that. That's why I kind of went to the that's kind of why I went to the camcorder, because the GoPro, man, just the sound on that thing just wasn't cutting it. I'd wake up and it'd have condensation on it or whatever the case may be. So I just decided to buy an $80 Amazon camera and see how that works out for me. And so far, it sounds like, I don't know. We'll see. But basically what just happened is I had 10 minutes of video and I forgot to turn the mic on. So there's no sound other than the sound of me batoning wood. So I'll bring everybody up to speed kind of on what just happened. So I was out fishing. I didn't catch anything. There was nothing but weeds, but lake weeds. So I started looking, and it looked like some rain was coming in. I was like, I got some time. So I'm out there casting, and I feel a raindrop. Okay. Then the dog starts to freak out a little bit. I don't think she likes rain that much. So I was like, okay, fine. So we come in, get everything set up to get the fire going. Excuse me. Get the fire going, and then yeah, that's pretty much it. So basically, where I was at, I was trying to, let me see if I can remember at least some of the things that I had said on the previous video. So I have been out camping a lot here as of recently, like a lot. I The last 12 months I've gone camping like seven times. I just haven't videoed it. The last one that you'll probably end up seeing is the one with me winter camping out. Yeah, the last one you'll see is me out winter camping. So later on, I ended up going to another campsite and camping again. Well, that was terrible. I didn't catch any fish, which is fine. But then I had people walking into my campsite and walking out of my campsite. I'm trying to video, this, that, the other thing. It didn't really go that well. Plus, I had some other stuff going on in my life that had nothing to do with work. It was just, so basically what ended up happening was the city sewer backed up into my house, and so I was fighting with the insurance agency at that point, saying, "Hey, look, you guys are responsible for this." And the person on the other end, who was became apparent right away, was not my friend. So basically, I'll start from the beginning. So what ended up happening was it was like what, April. So April, my wife and I, we have separate rooms. And the reason we have separate rooms is because I sleep in the basement and she sleeps upstairs, and that's because I have shift work. I can't get away from doing what I got to do. Sometimes I got to sleep during the day and work at night. That's the way that my job is. So I have a bedroom, I have a bathroom, I have the whole 9 yards in the basement. So it's not that huge of a deal. So basically, what happened was one day I went to go flush the toilet. The toilet didn't flush. I'm like, oh man, that's really weird. Like, whatever. So I went to take a shower. I took a shower. Everything was fine. And I happened to look in the toilet again. And I was like, oh man, it didn't flush again. So I went to flush it again. It ended up going down. I was like, okay, everything's fine. No worries. I don't know what that was all about. Maybe low flow toilet. So things kind of progressed like that. So I finally, by the end of April, I went to flush toilet and it didn't flush. Well, I had to go away for about a week, and it was like, meh, whatever. I'll deal with it when I get back. Like I wasn't really thinking anything. So I come back, and this is gonna sound disgusting, but the toilet still hadn't done what it was supposed to do. So I went and I looked, and there was water on the floor in my basement. So the way that our basement is set up is that we have a raised floor in our laundry room. I was like, oh, there's water on the floor in the laundry room. Like, whatever. We also have there's the main water line. There's the booster pump for the sprinkler system. I didn't give it any thought whatsoever. I was like, whatever. But as time went on, it was getting progressively worse. I'm like, this is really weird. So I called the plumber. I said, hey, look, here's what's going on. Toilet won't flush. I'm seeing water, this, that, the other thing. He's like, okay, I'll be by tomorrow. I said, all right, fine. So he shows up. He goes in about 45 feet. So let me preface the story. So basically, when we first bought the house, we were having issues with the washer dumping out all the water. So plumber came in, rotor-rooted, 45 feet, found a whole bunch of roots. Everything was great. I was like, okay. I said, hey, man, so I think here's what's going on. So this is 2 years later. I said, hey, man, I think here's what's going on. I think what's happening is that, the tree roots are getting in and messing up the whole thing. He's like, okay. So he goes into 45 feet, finds just the minimal amount of roots. And he goes, yeah, I think I got it. Everything should be good. I was like, all right, cool, man. Paid him. He left, and I, go to use the toilet again. Flush toilet again. It does not flush. I'm like, oh, you've got to be kidding me. So I call him back. I call him right back. I'm like, hey, man, toilet won't flush. I'm in a situation here. He's like, okay, I'll be there the next day. So the next day he gets there, and he rotor roots to 45 feet. He goes, hey, man, I don't know. I'm like, hey, I get it. I don't want you to lose your equipment in the sewer. Like, let's see if it works. Flush toilet does not go down. So he goes, okay. He goes out to 145 feet with and no success. I'm like, this is so weird. So he looks at me and he goes, hey, man, I don't normally say this, but I think it's your sewer. I'm like, it's my sewer. Like, we haven't. So basically the way that our house is set up is that in order to get to the sewer, it's 45 feet, but it's underneath this gigantic oak tree, which is why I thought that, it was the trees. It was the tree roots. He's like, hey, man, I went to like 150 feet and there's no real roots. I'm like, okay. So we call the city. I'm like, hey, man, look, something's going on with the sewer. We need it blown out. They're like, okay. They come by the next day. Mind you, I still can't flush my toilet because it's, they're not going anywhere. So ultimately it boils down to, in my house, which I bought not realizing this, the sewer line, it goes straight for 45 feet, and then it makes a turn. It makes a left-hand turn, and it goes all the way out to the sewer underneath the alleyway. Didn't know that. So I talked to somebody at the city. I talk with somebody, and they say, hey, man, does your sewer go X, Y, and Z? I'm like, no, I don't think it does. They're like, well, okay, so they blow it out. Nothing changes. So finally, we end up finding out that my sewer actually goes out to the alleyway. I'm not going to get into the full details, but basically, the city sewer was messed up. It had been messed up for a long time, and with change in management, I don't blame anybody. It was what it was. The sewer ended up collapsing and dumping all this brown water back into my house. So at one point, I go downstairs, and there is 3 feet. Well, not 3 feet. There's probably 8 inches of brown water, and it had been sucked up by the walls to about 3 feet. I lost my mind. I will be honest, my first thought was, let's get a gallon of gasoline, burn this thing down, and start over again. Because if there's one thing I can't stand is human brown water in my house. That is my sacred place. So I go to the city. I say, hey, here's what's going on. They're like, oh, yeah, sure. No, you're absolutely right. Blah, 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 blah. We will take care of it. I said, oh, thank you. You guys are making this super easy. So like, hey, you got to call the insurance company, and they'll handle it from here. I said, okay, fine. Whatever. I'll call the insurance company, blah, 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 blah. So I call the insurance company, and I get Matt Carcacher. Matt, if you're listening to this, I hate you. I absolutely hate you. So basically, he says, well, I have to conduct an investigation as to who's at fault and blah, 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 blah. He goes, but I wouldn't worry about it too much. He goes, you'll have my answer on Sunday, or by the end of the day on Friday. I said, okay, fine. So at that point, I was going out camping, and I was planning on making a video. So I go out camping. It's kind of a nightmare, like I said. Fish weren't biting. People tromp through my. Pick your poison as far as what went wrong at that point. So I come back that Sunday, and I fully expect a voicemail on my phone or an email. I stopped as soon as I got the service. I checked, nothing. I said, okay, fine. That Monday, I call. No answer. It goes right to voicemail. I said, hey, what's the status of what's going on? So it keeps going like this for a month. Literally a month. So I call him back and I say, hey, listen. I said, in my job, if I tell you that I'm going to do something and I don't do that, I lose a whole bunch of credibility. Like, your word is everything. Like, that is all you have in the job. Like, that's in what I do. That is all you have is your word. Your word holds everything. And I said, man, I got to be honest with you. I said, the fact that you told me that you were going to let me know by Friday afternoon where we were at, and then you're dodging my calls, you're doing this, you're doing that. I said, this is absolutely ridiculous. I said, I cannot believe that you still have a job. So he finally calls me back. He says, well, basically we have to determine who's liable for this. I said, who's liable for this? I said, if I were out at midnight with a pickaxe putting holes in the city sewer, sure, I can understand liability. But the city has already admitted that, that was there. It was an oversight, blah, 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 X, Y, Z. I said, I don't foresee how this is, anybody but your fault. So he proceeded to argue with me over the phone. And I said, you know what? This went on for another month. Phone tag, blah, 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 blah. I was finally like, you know what? Fine. So this is month 3 that we're at. My house still smells like human brown water in the basement. I said, okay, fine. I'm going to call the lawyer. Well, wouldn't you know it, I call the lawyer. The lawyer said, hey, I think you have a case. If you want this, that, the other thing, it may be best if all you really want is to just get your stuff fixed and get reimbursement for whatever you lost, just let them know that you talked to me. Here's my number. Here's my name. I said, okay. So I call up Matt. I said, Matt, at this point, I feel like nothing's been done. I have spoken with a lawyer and X, Y, and Z. Within 2 minutes, I get a phone call back. Hey, Ian, it's Matt. I just wanted to let you know kind of where we're at. We're almost done. It looks like the city's at fault. And we're gonna pay for all the renovations. So okay. So that was at month 3. Proceed to another month. We still don't have a check. So my contractor's like, hey man, when can we get going? The contractor's actually a friend of mine. He's like, hey man, when can we get going? I said, look, I don't have any money. I said, and so basically what the guy with the insurance company adjuster said was, oh, well, what you do is that you pay and then we'll just reimburse you. I said, man, I don't have $12,000 lying around. I don't have $12,000 in my bank account. Maybe you do, but I sure don't. I said, that's what it's going to cost to get this whole thing fixed. I said, I'm not starting anything until I have absolute clarity or absolute for sure that we're going to get this money. So basically the contractor, out of the goodness of his heart, said, well, you know what, the least we can do is rip the stuff out for you. I said, oh, I'd appreciate that, but just realize that, if this doesn't go through, we're going to have to pay you, and it's going to take... This guy, man, don't worry about it. So he starts ripping stuff apart, and there is mold everywhere. He's like, man, we're going to have to do this. He's like, I'm going to have to do an updated bill of sale, or an updated quote. He goes, because I didn't realize it was this bad. So sure enough, he gives an updated bill of sale. And finally, after I'm like, well, I've had enough. I'm going to the lawyer. We're done here. He sends a 12, whatever the case. It was like, I don't remember how much it was. It was like 12 and some odd change check. That gets the contractor going. I said, okay, great. Contractor's going. Cool. We're at month 6 by this point. So at month 6, I call him back and I said, hey man, you know, contractor's doing what he's doing. I said, I want to know what it's going to cost to get all of the personal items that I had that, you know, were covered in brown wire. He's like, oh, well, you know, I'm going to need pictures. I said, I sent you the pictures. I said, I have email proof that well, can you send them again? Another month. We're at month 7 at this point. So finally at month 7, Matt goes, okay, we're willing to pay you, but we have to do depreciation. I said, depreciation? Are you kidding me? I said, you know, I'm flummoxed by this point. I was like, so basically, he said that, you know, the carpets and the, you know, personal items and this, that, and the other thing was only equal to whatever. So my wife asked me, do you want to sue? I'm like, man, I'm at this point, I'm so beat. I said, I'm so tired of dealing with this guy. I was like, no, not really. So she's like, okay, fine. So Matt calls me back and says, well, we're willing to send you this check, but we have $85 that we have an issue with for one of your fireproof rugs. I said, $85? Are you insane? You put me through 7 months of this, and you're not willing to give me $85? Well, you know, I was like, send me the check. Just send me the check. I don't even care anymore. I don't even care anymore. So, that was what went on. You know, that's why, you know, and so ultimately we ended up getting the house fixed back up, and, you know, minus $85, we were, you know, paid for whatever, you know, whatever Matt thought we should have been paid for. So, yeah, that was one of the reasons why I hadn't videoed in a while. Yeah, so that's that story. I have plenty of other ones, but right now I'm gonna baby this fire just a little bit more because it looks like it wants to go out. So I'll be back with you guys with another story here.